Welcome to the Basketball Wales podcast. We find out a little bit more about what goes on in the Basketball Wales community. Croeso I pod Pelfasged. I'm John Bunyan, and today we're talking to Ieuan Jones, who heads up the Cardiff and Vale Basketball Academy.
Okay, Ieuan Jones, welcome to the Basketball Wales podcast. Nice to have you on. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me on, John.
Pleasure. And we want to get straight into it. We want to talk to you about your role as head coach at Cardiff and Vale College. But before we get into that, perhaps you could start off by telling us a little bit more about yourself, your basketball journey, where it started, how you got involved, and who inspired you.
Yeah, sure. So I'm from Cardiff. Lived here my whole life, and started playing basketball around year 7 or 8 in high school. Really just found a love for it, despite not really being into sports before that. And yeah, just pursued a number of different opportunities to play. I played as a junior for what was then Cardiff Capitals, which is now what Cardiff City has become. And I went to a basketball camp called Let Me Play Basketball Camp, and from there I actually met my coach and now colleague Andy Leftley, and started playing for what was Cardiff Celts, but has now kind of become Vale Vipers. And yeah, love basketball. Really changed my life from a discipline standpoint, which was fantastic for me. Really helped me with my education, and from there, I was able to play for Wales. I was really fortunate to have that opportunity to play in the 16s and under 18s. I was part of the Wales gold-winning medal team in 2011 in San Marino, which is obviously a lifetime memory. It's fantastic to win Wales' only gold medal at international competitions. So that was obviously a huge honour. Then from there, I was really fortunate. Then I went to university. I got work experience opportunities with Great Britain basketball. Started off as an assistant team manager, managed to work my way to being a performance analyst with the team, which was great. It was a great experience for me to add a skill set of being able to watch basketball, analyze basketball, cut game tape, and all of those sorts of things. And that then led to a role as an assistant coach with the GB under 18s women, and then with the GB under 16s men. And I was also able to be the performance analyst for the senior women's team and the senior men's team as well, which for a 5-year period was obviously an incredible opportunity to develop as a basketball person, meet very talented basketball people, whether they're coaches, players, team management, all of that. So that was amazing. And then from there, I managed to get a job with SGS Basketball Academy and Bristol Flyers. Spent 4 years there. Had a really good experience with some very talented players. Again, having the opportunity to coach every day was fantastic for me and my development. And then now, obviously, I'm currently head of basketball at Cardiff and Vale Basketball Academy and coaching club-wise with Cardiff City Men's National League and also with Vale Vipers National League junior teams as well. So yeah, that's kind of a quick run through, but it's been an incredible journey for me, and I love basketball and I love being able to talk about basketball. So yeah, I'm very excited to be on the podcast today.
Brilliant. In a space of a couple of minutes here, and you've rattled through your CV, which is quite impressive. So in a short space of time, you've gone from starting, at a very basic level to sort of quite a high level in a short space of time. So fantastic. You've had some fantastic experience with the sound of it. Tell us a little bit more about your Wales journey. Obviously, the vest sitting proudly behind you there with your gold medal. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about that tournament and how that sort of gold medal experience made you feel.
Yeah, I mean, it was an unbelievable opportunity for us. Like I say, my colleague Andy Leftley was my coach at the time. We were with Manny Idu as well, who's with Tribal Hunters, and with another coach called David Adams. And between the three of them, they just put on a really professional program for us. We were really fortunate to have training camps. A lot of our training camps were run alongside Great Britain basketball camps as well. So we would have training camps and we would be, with GB under 20s training camps. And even though we had minimal involvement with them from a basketball standpoint, just being able to be around those players, see that infrastructure was incredible for us. But we were a very tight-knit team. And we won a tough competition, and even though our competition was small compared to normal Division C championships, we had very competitive games throughout. some games where we were down and actually managed to come back. And yeah, it was an unbelievable experience for us. We went out there with a singular goal, and we always talked about winning the competition, and it was an amazing experience to achieve that. And yeah, like I say, lifetime memories for us. I still stay in touch with a lot of my teammates from that. And yeah, it was just a phenomenal experience, and it's one of those moments where you're very proud to be Welsh. And it's just great to have that opportunity and to have that as a group, and something that no one can take away from you. So yeah, it was a great opportunity for us.
Absolutely, yeah. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit more about how those coaches that you mentioned, Andy, Manny, and David, how did they influence you in your? Perhaps you didn't realise it at the time, but how much of an influence were they on your now coaching career?
Yeah, I mean, a huge. I think from a competitive standpoint, Andy certainly has very high standards. That's something that has translated to me in my playing when I was playing, and with my coaching now. It's funny now being back with Andy, and I think that's one of the huge, benefits to this current opportunity that I have, is actually being reunited with people that I haven't been around for a long time. And it's very funny actually how similar we are in terms of our coaching style, and how we portray ourselves to the players. A lot of the time we have moments where we almost think the exact same thing when we're about to make an adjustment to practice or make a suggestion to practice. So it's quite funny that he's had that much of an impact on me. But I think particularly more just from a life and person standpoint, Andy is a great man, and his morals and his principles have been very important to me. His impact on my life has been huge, just in terms of being a positive role model, and just being someone that doesn't coach just for basketball, but actually coaches to develop young people. And that's something that's been very profound on my life, and has obviously then translated into how I'd like to coach my players as well. And I think it's very wholesome to be able to coach with him again, because it's nice to actually be in a position where I can tell him those things, where a lot of the time as coaches, you don't always see the benefit of your work, because that obviously maybe happens a few years after your players graduate from your coaching. So like I say, it's very wholesome to be able to say that to Andy to his face, and actually say how much of an impact he's had on me as a coach, but also as a man. So yeah, he's been phenomenal. And then Manny and Dave, they were just great guys, really positive. I see Manny from time to time. Again, just a really lovely person who coaches for the right reasons, and again impacts the people in his care as well. So I mean, huge credit to all of those guys for the way that they coach, not only from a basketball standpoint, but also just from that developmental standpoint, and how the game is obviously bigger than just the game itself.
Yeah, fantastic. And I hope those guys will be able to listen to this recording and take that accolade as something that they'll treasure as well. So that's brilliant. I think you've just mentioned there, you've sort of answered one of my questions that I wanted to touch on. Really, is it what your coaching philosophy is, and you've just touched on that a little bit, I suppose, in terms of it's not just about the basketball; it's about the development of young people. And maybe we'll come on to that in a minute. Thanks for that. Yeah, and perhaps you could just tell us a little bit about you told us about your journey and where you've been and what you've done, which is remarkable. Tell us a little bit more about sort of how the Cardiff Vale Academy role presented itself to you.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was, obviously COVID has been a very interesting time for a lot of people. A lot of time to, evaluate aspects of your life. And like I said earlier, I had a good experience at SGS Basketball Academy and with Bristol Flyers. But obviously with COVID, I wasn't traveling over there. I was always based in Cardiff. I always lived in Cardiff and commuted to Bristol. And a big part of, of that was the travel commitments. And, when you had the opportunity to stay at home a lot, actually you kind of start to get into home comforts and those sorts of things. So I kind of was in this place of wanting to move on, and to kind of come back to Wales and coach back at home. But obviously there aren't a lot of basketball jobs in Wales. So when the Cardiff and Vale basketball job, became available, it was something that I didn't think ever would really happen, for me in Cardiff. So when it did come about, it was a no-brainer for me. I really wanted the opportunity. I've always wanted to be able to contribute back to Welsh basketball. And it's great to be able to continue my coaching career, in my hometown, with the clubs that I grew up as a junior. So as soon as the opportunity arose, it was a very simple decision for me. And I've got no shame in saying that this was, something that I prepared for, very, very diligently, because I really wanted the opportunity, and I saw the potential for, a basketball academy in Wales, that there's always been a call for it, for as long as I've been involved in basketball, and to be able to have the opportunity to lead the only basketball academy in the country, is a huge privilege and a huge honour, big responsibility. But one I'm really looking forward to, and that's something that I relish, and it excites me every day, which is exactly what your job should do. So yeah, I mean, as soon as the opportunity came about, it was an absolute no-brainer for me.
Brilliant. Yeah, and tell us a little bit more about the background and the thinking behind the academy from Cardiff and Vale College, and where did that come from, and how did they decide that, or how did they think that a basketball academy was something that was something they wanted to take forward?
Well, I mean, like, something that the college is aware of is the different sorts of sports that are becoming popular, and I mean, I think there's no question that basketball is increased in its awareness. Even when I was a junior, when I would play, you would drive around Cardiff, walk around Cardiff, and you wouldn't see anything to do with basketball. Whereas now you'll see young people wearing basketball jerseys, caps, whatever. Because of social media, being so much bigger now than what it was, access to basketball is huge. So I think there's a real call for basketball in general within the UK, but particularly is growing here in Cardiff. And the college has a page called Academies in Development, and basically any student can say on that page what academies they would like to see. And there's been a number of interested students in basketball over the years. There's been some talented players that have come through Cardiff and Vale, who obviously have not had the right basketball provision, or the full basketball provision that they could have had. Very much just be a college team that would play in games, but no coaching or no proper structure. So they've really saw the opportunity to do something with that. Where the college is based, kind of in the centre of Cardiff, and within the Grangetown area of Cardiff, there is a huge call for basketball in that area, and I think the college has just recognised that potential. And again, we've had a number of interested students. We've had 22 students this year enroll in the basketball academy, and that's without any recruitment or any sort of advertisement or anything. That is all current internal basketball students that want to be involved. The level of those students varies. We've got Josh Brown, who's a Welsh international, and then we've got all the way down to players that have never played before. But that is something that is really important to me about the academy, is that we cater for all abilities of basketball. We do want to be elite, but we also do want to be participation as well. And I think that's really, really important, that the academy is available to everybody. I know if basketball is something that people want to pursue, fantastic. If basketball is something to help people with their well-being, then fantastic. We want to give those opportunities to young people through the academy, and through pursuing their education at the same time.
Yeah, fantastic. So I think you've just answered my next question, which is about what stage is the academy at. I think you've answered that. I think sort of moving on, you talked about you've got 22 students, which is fantastic. It's already early days, so that's a great start for you. What kind of impact do you think that the academy will have, as it's the only academy in Wales? What kind of impact do you think it can have, short and long term, for basketball right throughout Wales?
I think it can be very profound, if I'm honest. I think, firstly, if you are an elite player and you are trying to pursue basketball, I think there's no better way to do that than to do it alongside your education. So I think that is a huge opportunity to be able to access strength and conditioning, individual skill sessions, team practices, games where you get more exposure. Games on a Wednesday as opposed to just on a weekend. I think that's a huge opportunity, and then to be able to take yourself from the basketball court or from your academic setting to either environment. I think that's just great to have that all kind of married in and put together. I think being able to access performance analysis is huge. I think a lot of players in Wales don't have that provision, which is that's no one's fault. It's just something that's very rare within basketball in the UK in general. So I think that's fantastic. And like I say, I think to be able to have a focused 2 to 3 year period, depending on how long you want to stay at the college academically, that can be really, really impactful. I can speak for my time at SGS Academy when the boys that would come in who were from our Flyers under 16s teams going all the way through to their second or third year of college, the difference you would see would be significant, especially from a physical development standpoint. So like I say, I think for us in Cardiff and for in Wales in general, I think it's a huge opportunity, because something that I have certainly found is coming back to coaching in Cardiff and in the South Wales area is there is a lot of talent, and there's a lot more talent than I think people give credit for in Wales. And that's credit to the players themselves, the club coaches that are doing the hard yards behind the scenes, which a lot of players and parents don't maybe see. But there is a lot of talent here, and that talent deserves to be developed in the right way and be given extra opportunity. So I think that's really important. I also think a lot of our talented players do go away to different academies, and whilst we're not at the point where we could probably keep those players in Wales currently, that is certainly an ambition for me, is to actually get the best players in Wales to stay within Wales and be prioritised and have the opportunity for them to put Wales on the map from a basketball academy standpoint. I think that's really, really important for us to have that opportunity. And like I said, I think it can be very profound for players to have that development. I think that will only drive the game in Wales to higher standards. I think that's the main thing, is trying to keep our young people, pushing basketball and the boundaries of basketball in Wales to a higher place, but also, for them to be staying in basketball longer term, and for us to have very competitive club teams, and also for our national team as well. I think that's extremely important.
Yeah, fantastic. I think, from what you said there, sort of starting to create a lot of questions in my mind. So the first one is, this is an opportunity for you to sort of promote the academy to sort of young and aspiring basketball players who want to sort of take that journey and that step. Just tell us a little bit about, what a typical day, what a typical week looks like. So, any young people listening to this can sort of get a better understanding for what's involved in being in the Cardiff Vale Academy.
Yeah, absolutely. So currently we train Monday and Friday 3:30 till 5. So we have 3 hours each week at least of team practice. If we don't have a Wednesday game, that'll be a practice session as well. Same time, same amount of time. We'll have a weekly game on a Wednesday. That is AOC competition. So currently we play in the South Wales League. However, next year we will be playing in the southwest of England, which again is just a little bit more of a competitive level, similar to Southwest Conference National League standard of basketball. We also have S&C sessions. So we have that on a Tuesday and a Thursday morning. And then we also have individual player development, which is a little bit different in terms of that it is catered around when there is slots within each player's timetable. So we try and figure that out. That might be between study, or there might be a lunch break or something like that. And we are very fortunate that whilst we have 2 different campuses, so we have the city centre campus, which is in Dumbles Road, right by Cardiff Central train station. We also have the Cardiff International Sports Campus, which is Leckwith athletics track, essentially. And we have S&C gyms at both campuses, and we have basketball courts at both campuses as well, that obviously can be accessed for either individual practice or for team practices. So we kind of go between the 2 facilities there. So yeah, that's kind of what a normal week would look like for us from a basketball perspective. Obviously, there's academic study in there, and something that I would very much highlight and say to anyone who is listening to this podcast and who is interested in the academy is we are student athletes first at our academy. Academics is essential to what we're doing, And at the end of the day, if we don't have our players of the basketball academy leave with academic success, then the whole point of the basketball academy has been missed. And we're really, looking to develop the young people from a academic sense first, and then basketball after that. Something that I would always say to any player is, if you have aspirations of going higher in basketball, don't ever forget that the academics is what will allow you to get there, whether that's academics in this country pursuing university basketball, or if that's college basketball in America. If your grades aren't to scratch, then you won't be going anywhere. It doesn't matter how good you are at basketball. So again, from that standpoint, we are really promoting that student athlete lifestyle, and making sure that we do that. A big part of my job is academic monitoring. So I'll be making sure that every student in basketball academy is working to their potential. And that is something that I will do on a weekly basis, and have meetings, where possible, to correct anyone, or also to praise players as well, to ensure that they are doing and knowing that they're doing the right thing if they are doing it. So yeah, that's kind of how a week would look for us from the basketball academy. So yeah, there's a lot of development going on all the time. It's growing on a daily basis, because that's the stage we're at.
Yeah, I think that's vitally important, and that was going to be my next question, which you've now answered. So I think players and certainly parents listening as well will resonate with that, and realise the importance of the academics as well as the basketball development as well. So that's good to know. My second question around what you've just said is about the competition. So you're currently playing in the Welsh College League, and then you're going to sort of develop into the Southwest League. How does this fit in longer term with the EABL, which is obviously the English academy system, and is that an aspiration for you longer term?
Yeah, it certainly is an aspiration for us. Like I said, I want the best Welsh players to be coming to our basketball academy. I'm completely realistic that players will always pursue the best level of competition for them to get better, but also to get the exposure they need to try and get onto their next steps in basketball. And where we currently are is where we are. Obviously we're developing bit by bit, and there is no skipping of steps. You have to build a strong foundation for anything that is going to last. But I think for us, the ABL is certainly the aspiration, and something that we're going to try and aspire to get ourselves to. I think our next step after competing in the Southwest League next year would be doing that maybe for a few years. Competing in then what would be the Academy Basketball League, which is that second tier of academy basketball, and then also going on to then trying to get into the EABL. That would be something that would take a little bit of doing, not just from a basketball standpoint, but just also from a logistical standpoint, in terms of having worked at an EABL academy and having worked with the DICE link with Basketball England. The funding that is given to EABL academies is through English ECFA, which is the funding body for the EABL. So there would be some background logistics to get a Welsh college into that. However, I know there is certainly aspiration for improving that whole British sort of overlook of basketball in the UK. And again, having a Welsh academy involved would be certainly a positive thing, from a GB basketball sort of standpoint.
Okay, that's really interesting, because at the moment, as we all know, the academies are in England. I'm not aware of one being in Scotland. So up until this point in time, any athletes from Wales or Scotland who have got aspirations to be in an academy have to go to somewhere in England. So this is a real sort of step forward, isn't it, in terms of that specifically. But my next question is, I'm going to challenge you here, Ieuan. Obviously at the early stages of your basketball academy, which is fantastic and it sounds brilliant, but what would you say to sort of a basketball player who is considering an English academy, sort of your Charnwoods, your Barking Abbeys, your Myerscoughes, etc. If they were considering that, how would you try to persuade them to stay in Wales at this moment in time, or is that something that you would sort of have a discussion about? Tell us your thoughts on that.
I think every situation is different. I think what I would say to a Welsh player in a general sense is that obviously, whilst the level may not be the very best. I think what I would certainly say is obviously we have the aspirations to that, but what I would say at the same time is that Welsh players would be prioritised at our academy. My recruitment is within South Wales and Wales in general, not externally from that. And that's not to say if a student from England would like to come, I would be turning them away, but the priority would always be Welsh players, and having that opportunity to build your basketball ability, I think would be great. I feel like my coaching ability would be enough to develop a player, and I think it's very important for us that we are trying to give back to Welsh basketball, and I think for the players to do that would be a big step for them. I think something that I'm going to be offering from next year certainly is we'll be competing in men's competition, so we'll be looking to enter the Welsh South Wales League. And also, I coach with Cardiff City's men's national league team, and if a player is good enough, then they can be involved in that. So Josh Brown, for example, who's a Welsh international under 19s player, is playing currently with us in Division 3. Recently had a very big game, in a very important game for us against Team Swindon. Came in and scored 15 points, probably 7 rebounds, something along those sorts of lines, and was absolutely vital in our win. And it's great to be able to see one of our academy players already progressing onto men's basketball and being pushed to develop in that way and being pushed against all the competition. So whilst our college basketball league entry right now is within AOC Southwest, which is still a national league standard and competitive, we do also have other opportunities for players who want to push themselves going forwards into men's basketball. And that's something that I certainly want for all of the players of the basketball academy, is to have their transition into men's basketball smoothened, so that when they do actually go into senior basketball full time, they're ready for the step up in physicality, in the pace of the game, and they can still be, a player that really is, able to contribute at those levels. So what I would say to any Welsh player is, you will be able to get some of the same offer that basketball academies in England will give you with us currently, whilst the college basketball may not be EABL standard, which, is what it is at this point. There are senior opportunities for you to compete, which is what a lot of other basketball academies in the UK do offer as well. So I think whilst there are some things we can't offer, I think there are a lot of things we can offer that actually are similar. And I think that's important for players. If there's a particularly talented player, I would be saying to them to go to the best standard possible and push themselves. I would never say to a player to come to a situation which isn't the best for them and their development. I certainly think it's important to be putting players in the right position for their success.
Fantastic. So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about, go back to what you said earlier about your roster. So you've got about 22 players at the moment, which I was surprised at. I must admit, that's, for me, I think that's a great number. This is your first year. So, moving forward, 2 questions, I suppose. You mentioned earlier, tell us a little bit more about your players, your roster, and then moving forward, sort of, the numbers that you're anticipating year on year. Is 22 about what you want, or are you looking to sort of increase that as the years go on? What does that look like? And finally, and my third part of that question is, this is a male program, yeah, not a female. There's no female program in this at the moment.
Sorry, can you go back to the first part of your question?
Yeah, sorry, I tested you there with three questions in one, didn't I? Tell us a little bit more about your roster, yeah. And so 22 kids in your roster at the moment is fantastic. So tell us a little bit more about the varying sort of degrees of ability in that.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, like I said earlier, we've got players that are Welsh international standards, and then we've got players that are beginners. So again, we've got a full spectrum really for what we'd want at the academy at this point, which is obviously a lovely place to start from. We've got a number of players from different clubs. So we've got players that have come through the Vale Vipers pathway. We've got players that have come through Cardiff City's pathway, through Cardiff Met Archers pathway, then from the Cougars pathway, tribal hunters as well. So we've got a real range. And I think something that's really important to say at this point is, we are very accepting of anybody joining the basketball academy. Any player from any club is welcome to join the academy and to contribute towards it. And like we've alluded to a number of times, this basketball academy is for any basketball player in Wales and further afield if that person so wishes to look at us as an option. But I think that's been really great to, again, see the talent that is out there and see, you know, how diverse our intake has been fantastic. Going on to the second part of your question in terms of intake, yeah, I mean, I certainly would like, you know, to have a good number. You know, it's always great to be able to have 12 players available for every game. So, you know, next year we're going to have a first team which competes in the AOC South West League, and then we're going to have a second team that competes in the AOC South Wales League, which is the league that we are currently entered in. The first team will also compete within South Wales Men's Basketball League, which will be fantastic to enter them into that. And yeah, like I say, that intake would be, you know, a great number for us, and we certainly would never be turning opportunity for basketball away. Something that's really important for us, and you know, in the proposal that I put together to Cardiff and Vale before getting the job, was that we want to have a lot of intramural opportunities as well. So 3v3 basketball is obviously hugely grown in the last few years. So we're looking to have internal 3v3 competitions for college students that maybe, you know, don't want to commit to all of the basketball academy, or maybe they just want to play basketball in a recreational sense. We could have that as well. So again, whilst we may have 24 players who want to play for a league or a team in a league, we may end up having, or well, I'd certainly hope we'd have more that we'd be playing recreationally as well. Then to move on to the last part of your question, we certainly do want to have a female basketball academy. And the basketball in Wales for girls is improved massively. There's a number of very, very talented women's players in Wales. You know, it's been great to see that development. So yeah, I certainly, you know, welcome any and all applications from female players. You know, if we can get a number of players to come in and we can have a squad of, you know, even 7 or 8 to start off with, I would absolutely love to have that. Female basketball is something that, you know, is massively, you know, grown, and you know, the ability of our players to actually reach Great Britain standard is obviously being demonstrated recently. And I think we need to keep giving those opportunities to young women. You know, something that's very important to me is that we are a very, you know, equal opportunities academy for, like I said earlier, in terms of, you know, performance basketball, participation basketball, but also male and female for both of those things as well. Basketball, like I say, is growing to a point where really, you know, everyone should have that opportunity to be involved. And like I say, for us to have a women's team would be a fantastic step forward. And that is certainly an aspiration. So yeah, if there are any female basketball players listening to this podcast, you know, you are most welcome at Cardiff and Vale Basketball Academy. We certainly want to see that development in the next few years for sure.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, great answers to 3 in 1 questions there. Thank you for that. Yeah, just sort of finally then, Ieuan, in terms of, you know, people, families, you know, parents, players listening to this today, where do people go to find out a little bit more? Have you got sort of open days coming up shortly that people can come along and visit and chat to you about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So Cardiff and Vale has a overall open evening coming up on both February 9th and February 10th. February 9th is in the Cardiff City campus, so the main campus, and also at the Barry campus as well. Those can be found on the Cardiff and Vale website, so cavc.ac.uk, and you can find on open evenings there the link to obviously attach yourself to, you know, a place for those evenings. I'll actually be present on the February 9th City Centre open evening, so I'll be there for anybody that wants guidance to talk about the basketball academy, but also if they need to be signposted to someone of the course that they're interested in studying, that is available on that evening as well. We recently had a basketball specific open evening, so if anyone wants to, you know, have access to the recording of that, if you email me at ijones ijones@cavc.ac.uk is my email for Cardiff Vale Basketball Academy. Obviously, if you have any questions about the open evening that we had, or just any questions in general about the Basketball Academy, you can email me through that. And then we also have a taster day for basketball coming up in February half term. So on Monday the 21st and Friday the 25th, we are going to be at House of Sport, which is where the Basketball Academy is based. And we are having basketball from 10 until 4 in the evening. That is free and accessible to anybody. The only requirement is that you have to email me again at ijones@cavc.ac.uk so you can take your place to our taster day. Coming to our taster day is not a signing up to the Basketball Academy. If you just want to come and see and just get a taste for, obviously, the Basketball Academy, then you are more than welcome to come, and you can make your decision either there or after that. There is no pressure for that at all. But like I said, that is open to anybody, male or female. And obviously, that is specifically aimed at anyone who is in year 10 and year 11, who's obviously starting to think about their next steps academically as well.
Fantastic. Okay, thanks for that. It's great information. Just finally then, Ieuan, final question, which is sort of personally to you, I guess, in terms of, you're doing, sounds like it's a great opportunity for you. It's a great opportunity for young people in Wales to sort of join an academy home-based, which is, fantastic. For you personally, what are your sort of coaching aspirations, and what are your goals for the future? What does that look like for you?
I think, for me, certainly building this academy to be, one of the strongest basketball academies in the UK would be a huge aspiration for this current role. I think there's the potential for that. I think if Welsh players really, want to invest in it and kind of create a culture of furthering the basketball infrastructure here, then that would be amazing, and I think that can happen. I think for me personally, trying to coach at the highest level I possibly can, but I've always had in my heart I want to do that in Wales. So for me, I would love to coach at a Wales level. Certainly would be very interested in coaching at a Wales senior men's level in the future. If there's ever opportunity for professional basketball to come to Wales, I would love to be part of that as well. And a big aspiration for me is trying to improve the clubs that I'm in as well. So trying to push Vale Vipers onto a higher level, trying to push Cardiff City onto a higher level as well, and take those programs as far as they possibly can. I think that's something that's really important to me. I've always wanted to pursue basketball, but Wales has really got me hooked, and I don't ever really want to leave South Wales. So I think for me, making basketball as best as it possibly can be, being able to share the experiences that I've had working with some very high level basketball coaches, and bringing that back to Wales, because I think, like I said, that there's so much potential for basketball in Wales, and I think it needs to be realised at this point, because I think we're at a stage where basketball has had its most exposure ever, and I think there's just so many positives to take at this current moment, and I think this basketball academy is a sign of that. That this is something that hasn't happened here, and now finally has. And I just think this is the time to capitalise on making Welsh basketball better. And like I say, for me, ambition wise, it's certainly to contribute to that as strongly as I possibly can. Helping players, helping other coaches where I can. I think all of those things are huge ambitions for me.
Brilliant, great answer. I'm gonna leave it there. It's a great way to finish the podcast. Sounds like you've got a real exciting opportunity to do lots of different things there with basketball, and use your experience and your knowledge to make that happen. So we wish you the very best. Personally, we wish you the best for the academy and all the kids that are currently there, and the kids that hopefully lots of kids that will come behind them. So yeah, brilliant. It's great to see, and there's lots of good things happening in basketball, and this is just another one. It's a great story. So thanks for sharing with us today. Thanks, Ieuan.
For your time, I really appreciate it.